Hey, Genius leaders, it's time for another solo episode. And today I want to talk about something that we discuss quite often with my clients, that I support them with, and that I observe as a challenge and a struggle for many leaders and founders. So I hope that you will get this new perspective and it will help you on your journey to stay on track, whatever the track that you've chosen is, and that will make it a bit more fun and a bit easier. So the mind shift is about redefining that interplay between the long-term goals and the short-term wins, and also about that pain and pleasure interplay with the phrase of no pain, no gain. So let's first go into the goals and the wins. Long-term goals are super important in life, right? We would talk about it in so many different ways, how important it is to know what you want to achieve, how you want to get there, and who you want to be. I talk about that a lot, right? Who you want to be, what kind of person do you want to show up as in life in different roles of yours. And that's important. But what I feel is a struggle for many is to sometimes let go of that vision, the long-term vision, for the sake of some short-term wins. So let me give an example, and I will actually change the context of it a bit just to anonymize the person. But it was a client of mine who had a very tough conflict situation at work with one team member. So it was a person who my client didn't feel safe around, physically safe. And it was nothing that, let's, yeah, it was a woman, my client is a woman, so she didn't feel like she could solve it just instantly with a click of fingers. So it was not anything that she could just quickly deal with. And while we were working on how to navigate the situation in the workplace, we also needed to take some quick shifts. So what I suggested to her and what we worked on is to really adjust so that she wouldn't be exposed to the person just as much. So whenever she could choose on the days when the person was in the office to work from home, to have meetings with clients or customer or suppliers and so on and so forth, just so that she would not interact with the person in question. And at some point she told me, okay, I feel like I'm just running away. I'm escaping. And for me, it was very important to emphasize that this is not an escape. This is the way to actually deal with the situation right now so that you have the capacity to deal with it long term. And I give the comparison of the medicine. So for example, if you are in a depressive state and it is a clinical depression, so it is a diagnosis, of course, you want to start building up your life. You want to make some lifestyle changes, maybe that actually that helps your brain chemistry and so on. But when you are in that depth, in the valley of the darkness, it's very difficult to have the energy to make those changes that will actually help you long term to get out of that state and stay out of it as much as possible. So sometimes we need to do some shifts, some changes short term to start getting the momentum. And in this case, with the example with the medicine, it is about, okay, I need to take some medicine to understand or to get to some kind of baseline so that I have the energy to start making those lifestyle changes. In the case of my client, we needed to get her out of the state of survival because whenever she was around that person, she didn't feel safe. So she couldn't contribute, she couldn't really collaborate with anyone, she couldn't be productive, etc. So we needed to get her out of that state so that she would be able to continue doing a good job and have the capacity to actually deal with the situation long term. Whether it was the conversation to really separate them, to move them on different projects, to get rid of the person, etc. But without going into details, what was the base for the conflict situation. So that is what I want to emphasize, that sometimes we do need to aim for those short-term wins or quick wins because they give us the energy or they give us the momentum to start moving towards those long-term goals of ours. And it's not you being lazy, it's not you being anyhow dumb or anything like that. I really want to emphasize how important to understand this difference is. When these quick wins are something that can actually fuel the change long term, there is no shame in having those quick wins. And It sounds basic, but I really want for you to pause and think about it. Where do you shy away from those quick wins? Where are they somehow feeling too simple, too basic, too primitive for you to aim for them or even to acknowledge them when you get them? And by that, you're taking away the power from yourself to actually get to that long-term goal of yours. And again, examples from the personal life could be if you have a a goal of, let's say, running take 10 kilometers and you have never run, you hate it absolutely, and so on and so forth. Really focus on those quick wins of buying the shoes that you like or going out for a walk, not even running in those shoes. Because that will start getting you into the mode of like, oh, actually, I'm taking tiny steps towards that goal. Or maybe the goal is to, or the tiny quick win would be not even related directly to running, but it would be about, let's say, skipping some parties that you know you drink too much at those on Fridays and that really sabotages your training that you plan for Saturday. Something like this can be seen as the short-term win. Okay, you've skipped that Friday, and I'm not saying forever, right? It's about like, okay, I need to skip those Fridays 3 weeks in a row because then I have some energy on Saturday. I don't have the excuse. My head is not hurting. I can go out for that walk, jog, whatever it is. Then I start getting into habit, and that habit can help me go to the party, but maybe drink less. Go to the party, but maybe leave earlier so that I get in bed on time and I don't feel as smashed the day after and I go for a jog. So again, this is not about the change forever, but it's about finding those tiny ways that can actually help us to get the energy to start gaining the momentum, the speed that can actually move us forward to the long-term goal that we have. And this is especially important because for many people, it's super hard to motivate themselves with that long-term vision and the long-term goal. And especially if that's the case for you, it's important for you to find those shorter term wins that can help you to move towards that goal somehow. With that being said, that's another trap I see. How the sometimes the short-term wins are not necessarily the ones that are contributing to the long-term goals of ours. I'll give my own example. Staying on LinkedIn. It's much easier for me to just go into my notifications and go through the posts that LinkedIn suggests to me, comment there, contribute somehow, so that I feel like I'm building my network and the relationships. I'm nurturing those connections that I have. I'm present not just to create, shout out my own content, and that's it, I leave from the platform. So it feels like, yeah, I'm contributing somehow, I'm building up my brand and yada, yada. But then if I do that, let's say for 2 hours per day, I wouldn't say it happens for 2 hours, but let's say, yeah, 1.5 hours throughout the day when I just quickly go and check my notifications, it gives me the instant gratification. Okay, my notifications are at zero, huh? And I also did something useful with that. But at the same time, I took away the time from a quality rest, a quality break between high intensity tasks like client sessions, teaching, etc. So I'm taking that away from myself, meaning that I'm more tired and that can get me in a downward spiral. Plus, I'm also taking away the time from real work of brand building and relationship building and sales. So here's, for example, something that even sounds like it actually contributes. The short-term thing contributes to the long-term goal. But if I just stay there and, it's a bit like seeing the track in front of you between the start and the finish. And it's important to take small steps, right, to get to the finish. But if you're stepping on the start line and you just take 100 small steps, yeah, you've done a good job. You've taken 100 steps toward the finish, but not really, because the distance hasn't really shortened between you and the finish line, because you're taking steps on the same spot, a bit like walking on a treadmill. So this is what I'm doing a bit with my LinkedIn notifications. I'm taking the tiny steps, but they're on the spot because I'm not taking those relationships further. I don't go into the DMs, for example, and follow up with the person on whose post I have commented. or someone's comment I liked under someone else's post, I don't go and start building that relationship in the direct messages with that person. That means that I'm just continue taking that first step around the start line, but I don't really build up my distance to get to the finish line. So this is just a open, honest example of how that is misaligned for me right now, and that's what I'm working on at the moment. And this is what I want you to think about. How do the short-term goals align, or short-term steps align with the long-term goals? And do they really bring you closer, or are you staying on the same track but not really getting anywhere closer to that finish line and that goal of yours? And with that, I want to talk a little bit about this no pain, no gain phrase that we use a lot. If you listen to this ever podcast before, you probably know that I'm following quite a lot of habits for myself. I'm tracking them, I'm doing them on a daily or weekly basis, and so on and so forth. And there I'm thinking about like, okay, if I look at all my habits, they take me between 1.5 to maybe even 3 hours, depending if the training is involved, for example, per day. That's a lot to manage on a daily basis in the life where I have a part-time job, I have a business to grow, I have a very thriving marriage with my husband, I have a daughter with whom I'm really engaged, and I'm trying to be a good family member for the extended family and from a good friend and so on. So there are a lot of things that I'm trying to navigate in my life. And then all these habits, they can easily become a pain in a way. Sorry, I'm taking a breaks here because I have been sick last week and today I've been teaching already and I had some client sessions, so my voice starts deteriorating slowly. So when I look at those habits, they are the pain that I am willing to have on a daily basis because I know that long term they make me feel better, they make me sharper, they actually contribute to my life satisfaction and the quality of my life. But sometimes it gets too much. There are those days when I'm traveling or when uh, I'm delivering workshops the whole day with barely any breaks, and then I need to bring my daughter to her after school activity, and then I also want to train myself. Suddenly the day is over, and then the question is like, okay, do I go to bed more or less on time, or do I go through all my habits to tick off the boxes because I know that that contributes to the long term? So sometimes, and here there is no answer, there is, one size fits all. I wanted to start just thinking about those terms. Is this immediate pain worth it long term? Or do I need an immediate gain right now that will contribute to the long term gain more? So, will it be better for me to spend extra half an hour and finish my habits for today because I haven't compromised on it a bit too much recently, maybe? Or because right now maybe my confidence is not the best. And I know that's, for example, an instance when I really double down on my habits. If I feel like there are things that are super new for me, they're difficult for me, and I feel shaky with my self-confidence, I lean into my habits because then they remind me I'm the person who continuously works on being better on myself. Those are the things that I can control. I'm working on them and so on. That strengthen my self-confidence that leaks into those new projects, new endeavors that I'm engaging in. And in that case, that pain of staying up longer and going through that list of my habits helps me to contribute to the long-term goal. But if I feel grounded, if I feel like, okay, I'm fine, I believe in myself, I don't have doubts about myself, and so on and so forth, then maybe the short-term gain of going to bed on time is actually the one that contributes to my long-term reaching my goals better than the short-term pain of achieving or getting through all my habits. So this is an example how I'm trying to balance those pains and gains and think again on those scales of short and long term and how that is a continuous interplay, and it's never a set formula that would work for every day, for every person, every context. But I want you to start thinking about that. I want you to start being more flexible and more forgiving with yourself. That life happens, you have different energy levels at different time of the day, on different days, at different stages of your life. I want you to start adjusting to it with those in mind. I want you to give yourself grace that and understanding that it's okay. As long as you're still moving somewhere that you feel like it's the right direction, it's worth it. And just because you decide today to not do any of your habits or to skip the training because you feel like long term it actually will help you more to have had that extra 1 hour of sleep tonight, then go for it. I know there are pro athletes, there are business gurus who say, I don't negotiate with myself. If I have committed to training every day, then I'm showing up, even if it's at midnight, I'm super tired, I'll still do my training. I honestly don't think that's what we should do in any stage of our lives, because it can bite us in our back later on. But sometimes it's absolutely what we need to do. This is the example of how my self-confidence, for example, defines whether I go for that quote unquote midnight training, my version of it, or not. So I hope it helps you to start thinking in those new terms of balancing the quick wins, the short-term wins with achieving your long-term goals, how they interplay with each other, and also how this game of pain and gain can be played in different ways on different levels. So let me know what you think about this idea, whether that's anyhow new to you or it's like, duh, Anna, nothing new that I've heard in this episode, and your examples have not been helpful. Please let me know about that. That probably means that you're quite good at that, and I would love to have your examples of how you lead your life in that case. So let me know about that. And as always, I'm rooting for you, and I want to remind you that I see you, I feel you, I love you, and I do believe that you can reach those long-term goals of yours without too much pain on the way, but with the pain that is necessary. And it's up to you to decide which pain is necessary and when. Take care, balance those gains and pains and wins, short term versus long terms, on your own terms, and talk to you next week.